No, the computer's still doesn't work. Right. But I was on the phone with 5 solutions for an hour, and they still couldn't get it on, so. That's true.
Okay, it's 6 o'clock, so I'll call the meeting to order and we'll start with the pledge of allegiance. Stand, please. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, we take roll call, please.
Ryan Robertson.
Here.
Kevin Key.
Here.
Alan Schneider. Tom Sexton.
Here.
Lois Schneider. Here. Ed Rivera.
Here.
Everyone's present and accounted for. We'll start with the approval of the consent agenda. Any questions or comments on that?
I'll make a motion to approve the consent agenda.
Should this be approval of the agenda?
Or not the consent agenda.
The agenda.
So, we have a motion by Robertson, second by McGuire. Any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, the agenda is approved, and now we move on to the consent agenda. Questions or comments on those items? All right, motion to approve the consent agenda.
I'll second.
Motion by Key, second by Robertson. Any discussion?
I have a question on the inspections and the legal expenses. Were they the same amount?
18.45. I guess I don't have it in front of me. The invoice for Lynch
I
Dallas.
mean, very well it could be, but
Building 45, and the inspection was 1845.
I thought it was, yeah, I mean, it could be, but I just,
It does seem like a slim possibility.
While we're waiting for that, do we have anyone wishing to speak in a public forum this evening?
Name. What are the rules here? Sorry.
So just start, is state your name, and then you got 3 minutes.
Okay.
to make your comments.
My name is Courtney. I live on 4th Street in Riverside. I'm here to speak about the Elite Hospitality Group's request for TIF funding. Elite Hospitality Group's TIF proposal calls for 15 years of commitment from the city, which percentages from years 1 through 10 at 100%, and 50% from years 11 through 15 means the total tax income transferred to the elites in total would be $50 million based on current levy rates. This means already rich elites would divert $50 million in future tax revenues to their own pockets. This would adversely affect schools, city services, county government, and public safety and more. I think the people in this nation are finally waking up to the corporate welfare scheme, and we the people are asked to repay loans that we take and to only buy and invest in items we can afford. We need to expect the same from corporations before we transfer more of our hard-earned wealth into the pockets of out-of-state investors. For instance, the Cedar Crossing Casino is not funded by TIF, it's funded by private investors. Let's do the same thing here. In 2010, Riverside was ordered into judgment to pay Washington County $350,000 in an annual $175,000 payment. for a $9.4 million TIF agreement they made with the casino, which the casino reneged on. After already being granted $9.4 million TIF, the casino then decided that Riverside wouldn't be able to do this in a timely manner, so they would pay the city a paltry, to them, $1.7 million to build their own system, and then sell the excess services to rural water or neighboring cities, while also requiring the city to forego taxes that they earned. I wonder if the council could do the math on that and see what they have giving up in those taxes alone. Then add in the $175 a year we are still paying the county for that botched TIF. Now, nicholasjohnson.org and riversideresort.com estimate the casino has contributed only $20 million to the city of Riverside since its opening in 2006. Far less than what the city will have to forgo in this new transfer of tax dollars and what we've already paid to the Elite Casino Hospitality Group. That sum of $20 million is also offset by lost revenue and judgments the city has had to pay. The town has done enough to enrich the elites of the Kell family and Elite Hospitality Group, who own 7 casinos around the area. They have the money to afford this on their own. In a time when economic experts are predicting the onset of a recession rivaling the Great Depression, it is not the time to give up $50 million into a business that people not be able to even afford to attend. In a time where our property taxes will most likely go up to fund the wellness center, it's also not the time to fork over $50 million to the rich. KCRG reported 6/20/25 that this casino is estimated to lose $34 million a year, or a quarter of their annual profits, when the Cedar Rapids Casino comes online. They can absorb that. They can give up their avocado toast. Why are citizens continually expected to bail out corporations? The town doesn't need this project. The town is in no danger of dying, as it is one of the few still affordable places to live for those priced out of Iowa City and the corridor. I lost my place.
1 minute.
Was that it? Okay. University of Iowa employees alone will keep this town going. Growth can be good. I agree with that. But growth at no cost with no guardrails is a crime against the citizenship. So let's keep our town affordable for residents who actually live here. Thank you.
Thank you, appreciate the comments, and we will potentially address some of that when we get to that on the agenda later on this evening. Anyone else for the public forum? All right, we'll circle back to the consent agenda then. Would you have?
I've confirmed that they are indeed accurate,
They are the same.
and they are coincidentally the same amount.
All right, I just wanted to check, thank you.
Thanks for checking. All right, any other discussion? So again, we had a motion by Keating, second by Rogerson. All those in favor say aye. Any opposed? Consent agenda is approved. We're taking care of the public forum, the Washington County Sheriff's Department.
Probably move that to whenever Aaron
Happens
gets here.
later on, when we get here, yeah. So ready for the city engineer to report.
Hi, everybody. Hello. Good evening, everyone. All right, just a couple quick updates first, then I'll hop over to Hall Park Playground. Wellness Center, just a couple items to update you on. Met with Cole and the mayor there just to go over some coordination items, remaining design and schedule, things like that, with some of the transition here going on. So everything went well there. We did kind of discuss a little more in depth equipment layout. In terms of the fitness and weightlifting equipment, and review to discuss that and making some additions and changes to that. We did kind of provide a summary of potential grants and funding sources too. I know Lois had asked about that last time, of some of the status there and where those are going right now. Otherwise, we're continuing on schedule with that wellness center design. If not actually a little bit ahead of schedule to make sure we're getting plenty of time for our last opinion of cost and see where that comes in budget wise. We have a little bit of time there for any value engineering if needed. So on schedule right now. Any questions with wellness?
Did you send the summary?
I have,
Yeah.
I'll send them over to you for
I did.
tomorrow, so you can have those as well. I get this
We're
done.
on our meeting tomorrow.
Oh, okay, perfect.
All right, thanks.
CDBG downtown revitalization, a couple of bullet items there. Contractor has said he will be done mid to late July. Go towards the late July because we know how that's gone so far. But should be done by the end of the month for sure. After that final payout with IEDA, there's a 30 days in which then that grant is officially closed. I know that had been a question that had been brought up by one of the property owners, just because they want to do some of their own work with an additional contractor, and you can't do that until that grant is closed out. So I believe that's for their sign, to get their sign up. So they do have to wait 30 days after that final payout is done. But then they'll be able to do any additional work on their own outside of that grant money. So hopefully things wrapping up here finally in the next few weeks here.
Looks nice.
It's looking much better.
Brian?
Yeah.
For that project, since I will be, so my last day will be the 17th, we had talked about doing a work session with city council to walk through the project. Is that something that Danielle could
Yeah.
assist with coordinating between the property owners, so that we can have that with city council?
You bet.
Thank you.
Good. All right, I had a couple items there on Hall Park for you. After, I know we had some previous discussion on just layout of the playground equipment and what that looks like on site, and specifically to one of the trees there, just to the east of the pickleball courts. So wanted to throw out a couple different very rough layouts of what that looks like with that equipment. As previously discussed, love to save the tree, and we still can save the tree. It certainly helps with the layout of where it goes, elevation-wise, grade-wise, and just how it fits in with the pickleball courts. We feel if that tree were to be removed, we did have that tree further evaluated. Andy went out there and looked at it. It is a very good, nice, mature tree. It's very healthy, so there's no real concerns there with that being a problem in the future. So with that being said, certainly understand if the ideal situation is to still save that, and we can do that, and we'll work around it. It'll just create a little bit more challenges in the grading, push that playground a little bit further south and east, lower in elevation than more at that elevation grade of the existing pickleball courts now. So just wanted to kind of get that out in front of you, get your feedback, thoughts, if you have any, and can certainly make some adjustments and come back to you with that as well. But wanted to follow up since we discussed that last night.
Brian, as you and I and Nick in your office discussed, I mean, with your memo, you do have some, like, the pros and cons
Yeah.
of this, where the primary pro of moving it to save the tree, that is the
Yes, correct. The big pro there is you're saving a good, healthy, mature tree. We actually did look into, even though it is, sizable and mature, we did look into, can we move that as well? And we're getting a number on that. And I think we can still, it's probably in that $5,000 range to relocate that and move it, but it does sound like that is an option. Otherwise, certainly one other option we threw out there was to, of course, get some additional trees in lieu of that and replace that, again, knowing that those aren't going to be at that maturity level of the existing. But we could place those in some really good areas that would help with the park as a whole in the future too. But yes, to your point, Cole, I mean, the pro there is a nice mature tree. It does provide shade, though we do have some shade amenity items within the playground equipment itself. The pros for removing the tree, as alluded to, really are a lot around that grading. That tree sits really low. If you went out there and looked at it, it sits really low comparatively to the pickleball courts and where we want to place that playground equipment. So in order to get drainage out of there and or even work around, we have about 14 feet from that center tree before we can really disturb those roots or get a lot of fill, more than 4 or 5 inches of fill over there, or we'll kill the tree anyway. So it just kind of prohibits us on where we put the playground equipment. Again, we can't work around it, but the lower we get, also the less we have for ability to get drainage out of there. We get lower to the south, it's pretty flat going out of that park, and we gotta make sure we have some subsurface drainage underneath that softball surface to get the drain out. So that's what's wanting to push that equipment further north if we can, but the tree would have to go for that.
Brian, did retaining the tree also result in stairs?
Yes, thank you. Yep, the layouts, as you see, so pedestrian connectivity, yeah, all regarding grade and elevation, is if we went lower with that to connect into the outer loop, if you will, of that sidewalk and trail, that we would probably have to have we would, if you wanted ADA accessibility, you would have to have a longer slope walk, and then if you wanted a shorter connection to that playground, we would have a little sidewalk with stairs in it. Again, if you push that further north, we can use that perimeter trail to be part of that boundary of that equipment. So would save some costs. With that tree removal, you'd save some costs with less concrete in terms of sidewalks, some stairs, some additional ramping.
If we came off the sidewalk or the concession stand, and ended up with the pickleball court, like you said, would that qualify for an ADA approach to it? So we would have to put that up for right now.
Yeah, if we could meet, if we can get everything to meet from that concession stand, slope wide, both longitudinally, cross sectionally there, you have, certainly some.
We can still put the steps in.
Right, as long as we provide at least one route, yes, yeah, wherever that may come from, correct.
Well, I'm all in favor of saving that tree, and like you said, plant some more besides that. That's my,
I'm kind of opposed to that first diagram you got here that's up against the pickleball court. Just for the sake of saving the tree, but I think there should be a little separation between the playground and the pickleball court, just for the fact distraction from the players.
Okay. Appreciate that.
what was I reading the top of? We were gonna raise that about 6 feet. There. We put it up.
If we put it up there, I can't remember exactly how far it is, but it would definitely be, yes, raised up, correct. There'd be several feet probably in there. I don't know if it'd be, but yeah, there'd be several feet of fill in there to raise that up, correct.
Well, I'm just thinking, if we get an ADA entrance to the park, through the playground from the south side, take care of that, which we need to do.
Yeah.
I think I'm in favor.
Yeah,
of that plan.
and the follow-up question on that, Kevin, and I agree, we definitely could do that, is, which is a question regardless of which way we want to lay out, is, would you want that further loop of sidewalk to the south and to the east over concession or somewhere near the ballpark there, would you want to try to include that in with this project? Or phase that, in the future? Right now, I don't think it was included in the original budget for that, but certainly can be included. So that's another question, I guess, regardless of which way we go.
Well, if we don't have to haul that fill and raise that 6 feet with that, how much offset?
We'll definitely have, there'll be some offsetting there for sure. Yeah, on some of that less fill, like I said, we'll have, and if we don't get some of that stairs, really, we can certainly look at where we're coming out on that. Yeah. Yeah, because in that previous estimate I provided too, which we were, I want to say about 20,000 over, but had pretty large contingency in there. That was including the exterior loop sidewalk too. So you might have some play there. We can certainly look at that. Yeah.
Yeah, we also, to your point, Brian, we don't have to do the full extent of the sidewalk as part of this project. Like all of the, like a connection to the south and to the ball diamonds doesn't necessarily need to happen.
Right.
But ideally, it would be good to connect all that stuff.
Yeah, and if we're going to come with our ADA connection from that direction, then we want to try to include that. Yeah, we could run with that. Any other opinions?
Well, as you go down south and that sidewalk down there, there's kind of a drainage problem in front of the restrooms.
For the rest
It
of
seems like whenever it rains during the Trek Fest, there's a traffic.
Yeah.
There's a pool usually by your tent to the west, right?
To the
Like
south,
beer tent.
southeast. To the southeast of the big
Well, the
tent.
beer tent and then the other tent. So down there in front, there's
Yeah.
usually a puddle down there, so that's something I think.
Yeah.
There's
a swell down there.
Yeah.
Yeah. This should take into consideration when you're
Yeah. You might.
planning that to kind of dry that up.
Looking at it, I would be more in favor of attachment C0.00, which is the one that connects to the ball field.
Okay.
Brian, did you need further direction from city council tonight on the layout?
No, that's what I think there really seems like, yeah, like, sounds like majority is to let's try to stay that tree and push that a little bit further south and east, and then we'll connect in from that south side with the ADA. And yeah, we can further get this a little better detailed out than knowing that. Awesome. Okay. Appreciate that. And then last time we also talked about the reuse or I should say multi-use of the existing tennis court. So I threw in there 2 different drawings just showing you literally pavement marking wise, or whether you did it in a resurfacing manner, what that can look like. So the one is just a single court marked on the existing tennis court in which you would utilize the existing net there. So nothing would have to be, no portable nets. You just use that permanent net there and just add some additional pavement markings, whether it be, like I said, colored foliage or just some striping. On the right side, you'll see that where you can get the 2 courts, which is similarly what's marked out there now. Whoever did some pavement markings out there brought in portable net. You can certainly do that as well. Again, would have the 2 portable nets and then just some additional pavement markings, but it does fit fine within the boundary of the existing pavement there on that tennis court now.
Option 2 is the 2, and that's what we currently have laid out. This would just be new painting of the court to be like a permanent layout.
So just really for reference, I mean, if you need any additional action on that, let me know. Just wanted to
Pros, you
share
get
with you
2 courts. Con, you have to have separate nets. The other one, pro, you use the existing net. Con, we only have one court. So
Do you have comments on that, or do you wanna just set that aside for now, or is that something we're interested in more information on? Any idea on rough costs for?
If you're looking at just pavement markings and are you looking at color or are you looking for a new, surface?
I don't know, new surface.
Okay,
there would probably be there's some cracking. You probably have to do some
There
work
is.
and then painting.
yeah.
So
I don't think a new surface is necessary, and we're probably gonna change it at some point in the near future anyway, so.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think we just want this to be a project related, that's fine too.
yeah, it could be a small project. I think pretty easy to do.
Got it.
We appreciate putting this together, and we'll see if there's a better time.
Yeah, enjoy. I think that's all I have. Any other items or questions for me? All right.
Thank you, Brian.
Thank you, everybody. Appreciate it.
That's fine.
Thank you.
All right, we'll continue on for right now with the city administrator section then.
Yep, I mean, the first item we do have here is review of the tip incentives request with Blackjack Beach RV and Water Resort. So we do have a proposal that was included in the packet. This was the original proposal provided by Elite Hospitality Group. Alan and I have been in conversations with their team, trying to, get to a rough agreement that would, be a win-win here. So I think first and foremost, it's, important to understand what a TIF rebate agreement is. In this case, the rebate is a portion of the new property tax generated. So in this case, the existing property taxes on that property would stay the same. So the valuation, all of the division of levies to come from the school district, the county, the township, not the city because it's not annexed in, all of that would be split out as if it was any other piece of property in town. The purpose of a TIF rebate is to pass the but-for test. So in this case, the development would not happen if it weren't but for the incentives. And I think that's something that ultimately comes down to the discretion of city council and what amount that is. I think we go based off of the information presented to us, but I think we also need to make sure that the agreement or proposal is also in the best interest of the community. It has to be a win-win for this to work. We do, sorry, to go back to the TIF rebate of how that works. So this would just be applied to this parcel. It would not be taking any funds from any other, I guess, no one would be paying for this other than the developer themselves at this property. So, in this case, regardless of the term length of it, it would be for a limited period of time. It'd be a rebate of a portion of the property tax proceeds. Alan and I have been pretty upfront throughout this entire process that we want new revenues from the beginning of the project. So that means not 100% rebate on it, so that there's new revenues being generated from day one. Also a TIF rebate, there are certain levies that are excluded from it. So things like debt service levies, things like the EMS levy that was passed last November. There's some school levies as well that are all exempt from this. So those taxing entities like the school, the county for EMS, all of them would be receiving full funding based off of the new valuation, anticipated to be 10 million. So there'd be new revenues generated. And then based upon the rebated portion, the unrebated portion would be new revenues available as already. New revenues available from that point on. As I said, this would be a limited time. So after the term expired, it would be 100% goes to all taxing entities. So in this case, there's no money put in front from the city. This is something growth is paying for growth, with the idea that the incentives offered would be helping make the project financially feasible, so that when it's all said and done, there's a new taxable valuation that everyone benefits from, and then we have the development as well. So that's there's multiple pieces that come into it, but the proposals that we have here, the initial proposal, this is based off of a $10 million valuation. The initial proposal was a 15-year agreement. The total amount of rebated revenues over that 15-year period would have been a little over $2.8 million over the 15 years, and would also generate just to the city $182,250 over that period of time. That's also not including what would be generated from the other taxing entities over that period, as well as sales tax and other things like that generated. So anyways, like I guess we do have some play where that goes, but the maximum one was, almost 3.2 million in total rebated over that period. So at the end of the day, there are still new tax revenues generated from day one. It's not something where the residents of Riverside, the Washington County residents, are footing the bill to make this development happen. This is something where a portion of the property taxes being paid by the developer is being rebated to them for a certain period of time to make the project financially viable. But anyways, I guess, Alan, do you have anything else to add on to, I guess, how TIF rebate works or the proposal we're looking at here?
Well, just to your point earlier, I think the reason we were looking for something less than 100% rebate is that we do expect there's going to be expenses incurred by the city as part of this project. So we thought there should be some.
Law enforcement, emergency services would be the primary ones.
Not huge expenses, but impactful. So that was the reason for our suggestion that we go that route. And I just wanted to be clear too. I heard the number 50 million thrown out there. So we're talking about much less than that. Still a significant amount of money, but like Cole said, it's not the city giving this money to the developer. It's the city allowing the developer to basically forego those property taxes for a period of time.
But it's all new revenues, so we don't currently have them. They don't currently exist. They wouldn't exist without this project. There is.
I'd like to add, and I'll just be letting you know, we're more frank. One, this is a property that is owned currently by this group. This isn't, we don't have a choice of what goes in there. That's not what we're
Beyond-
talking about.
beyond
We
what
have a
is-
choice on whether we support what they want to put in there. I personally support what they want to put in there. We're not pulling out of pockets of residents. I think there's a lot of misconception on how TIF actually works. This is good for this community, and this is with a trusted partner that we've had for quite some time. Probably our largest partner for the city. I would suggest that anybody that has opposition to it to actually study what TIF is and what we are trying to do with this group. That's all I have.
I have a question. Is that new RV park built yet? By the,
Yeah.
so is that the conflict?
Like I said, that's not really our purview of whether it's conflicting businesses or not.
Well, didn't they request to be given TIF?
No, the tip wasn't used for that, but the property was, it's probably.
Right, yeah, I was gonna say, I remember something.
Did you say it's not annexed in?
It's not, it would
It
be,
won't be?
it will be, yep.
Okay.
So that's the only way that we would have, I mean, that's the only way we can collect property taxes if it's
Well,
annexed in the
Yeah, you
city.
said it isn't, that's why.
Yeah.
The other thing is, how will they be using the water?
Correct,
will be
water and sewer.
recycled?
Water and sewer, but the water park, correct me if I'm wrong, but would be primarily serviced from the Quarry Lake itself, is that correct? Beyond the RV usage? I guess that question is somewhat relevant, but not super relevant to the incentive conversation tonight, but
It's very.
To me it is, because if they're gonna have 15 years of using the water and wastewater, then it is gonna put a lot through that, so.
we have received utility consumptions and everything capacity wise does look good, but.
I will be using city water, but we're paying for it.
No, I get that, but I'm just saying, we just got done putting how much into it.
Yeah.
So what I'm saying is with 15 years of wear and tear, we're gonna be, needing to, I'm just asking for that reason.
Well, so we account for those costs in our utility rates. That would be, we do have to keep that, how do I put this? Those enterprise operations have to be self-supported by those operations. However, they would be, at this point, be paying the premium rate of 50,000 plus gallons per month. And that's something that we just want to make sure that we're continually keeping up with our utility rates to ensure that those costs are covered. So, yeah, I guess that would be.
Well, we did look at it from the side of the infrastructure, and we did evaluate the lift station there and feel that there's plenty of capacity there to take on this development, and there's no concerns there. Similarly, looked at it with people service in terms of the pipe sizing of the water main and the sanitary sewer, and everything was fine there as well.
As far as additional water capacity for treatment, we don't currently use all 3 RO trains to their full capacity. And we also have the additional room to add a 4th train in the future if needed as well. So we are plenty good at capacity on both treatment as well as the main size throughout all of there to be able to treat it. So.
So the 2 sheets we got on figures, are those
There's 3
ours
different.
or are they from the?
So there's 3 different, so this is, I drafted these with conjunction of our municipal financial advisor. So the first one you'll see in the top box says Blackjack Beach RV Water Resort V1. That is a model of the original proposal submitted by their team. The V2, the second sheet there, that is the counteroffer that we made. And then V3 is the counter of the counteroffer from the development team. So that's would be those 3 versions there. I guess to be clear on the intent of tonight's conversation is to, I guess, get a gauge of sentiment for the project as well as issuing incentives. But also, we wouldn't be approving anything tonight. This is something, because it's currently in a county, we would need to either get Washington County's consent or we'd be able to consider this after annexation has been complete. Those are the two points of approval that we would have to, the process for that. So there's nothing to, I guess, consider tonight, but I do think it would be nice to have some feedback on the numbers here that's been presented, just so we can, it would be nice to get more of a final numbers in place before we would move forward with any kind of approval process.
So what are you talking about the county?
So because the property is not yet annexed, so we don't have the authority to say what taxes can go in the TIF or not. So the options are we get consent from the county that would approve this prior to annexation, or annexation would be complete, and then we would have the authority to issue it ourselves. Given that the assessment for putting taxable for assessing property values is an 18-month process, plus you also put construction in there, it's not likely the valuation is going to be even existing there for, say, 2 years, 2.5 years from now, given construction began, very soon. So in that case, there's definitely some time there, but I also know from a development perspective and what's in the best interest of our community, having some kind of certainty would be allowing the project to move forward. So, without that, there is no revenues at all, if that makes sense. But
I guess I would like to see a work session or something, because this is the first and only that, presented this, so whether there's somebody from, is it Dorsey or something?
Dorsey would be our bond counsel, and Spear Financial, Maggie Berger from Spear Financial.
Whatever, somebody that's there to kind of really inform us of different options.
All of this is based upon an anticipated taxable valuation of 10 million. So what that means is these incentives, the total amount rebated could be higher or lower depending on what the assessed value is, what the state has for rollback rates, which determine taxable valuations, what the state does for setting property tax limits on rates. So all of those are factors that are subject to change. This is just with today's information based off of this anticipated valuation, what would that look like? So all of the risk is essentially on the developer. If we have an agreement that we feel is fair, that if they need, say, $4 billion in incentives to make the project financially viable, they're going to have a taxable valuation that's high enough to get those. But also, if the valuation is lower, they have potentially less costs. That means they would not get as much in incentives. It's really up. I don't know if that makes sense, but it's really on them.
Well, I'll say I agree with Brian. I think this would be a good place for not just people from out of the area. I think the casino's probably pivoting a little bit because of the Lynn County, and bringing something else to the attraction. And then not only that, but it's something that the citizens in town can go do. It's not too far away. And I'm not gonna lie, I do love water parks. But it's kind of like Coralville. You gotta lose a little bit of money to make some money. And with the whole Marriott down there, I know it's not Marriott anymore, but they got pretty good deals down there, and it spurred that whole area, which some people like or don't like, but it still spurred all that new development in the IRL, and there's a lot more tax money coming in from all the stores there, and so I would say, again, I agree with Ryan. I think it's probably not the worst idea. And, if it's not doing anything now, and we're gonna, bleed a little bit, but eventually it'll come back, then,
I hear your point on losing or bleeding money is it's a foregone revenue that does not exist currently without the project. So it's more of an opportunity cost, than an actual, like,
well, I
dollars.
think it depends on how you see it, in a sense where I do know a lot of people, when they look at TIF, they're thinking they're losing money, but they're not, because they're still gaining something later down the road. Obviously, there's a lot of talk about how much you should give to corporations and stuff like that, but I mean, GPS was developed from the government with another company. I think it was GE, but I can't remember exactly. But if the government didn't help them out, we probably wouldn't have GPS. This company couldn't afford to do all the development themselves. So it's kind of the same theory.
Yeah, no, that's the but-for test. So.
Here's, as I stated before, they already own the property, it's their property. We can get in with what they wanna do, or they can move on and just let that property sit and we get what we get today. And nothing in the future. Nothing extra in the future, that's the way I see it.
So is everyone here in agreement that this is a project that we want to support in some way?
Absolutely.
Anybody disagree with that?
I like the project, but I think we need to look at these numbers a little closer.
Yeah, that's-
Yeah.
I'm not a huge fan of TIF, but if that ain't offered, possibility that project won't be built. But on the other hand, if this project does get built, that I feel will strain our EMS service, our sheriff's service, with all the additional people that's gonna be bringing in and possible, emergency calls or something, and the strain that's gonna probably put on our water and sewer. So, we're giving this TIF money away, and it's gonna be for several years, and by the time we start needing repairs or more police or more fire truck service, that money won't be rolled in early enough to offset the cost of that, I feel. So I seriously think we need to look harder at these numbers, what you're offering.
And could we reverse it where maybe we give less up front and then give more on the back end?
Well, and that's what I'm saying, I'm 100% for the project. But I don't have enough. Well, first of all, this is my first tip, I will admit, but the numbers aren't clear to me as to where,
What is the difference? I guess I hear your point of front loading versus back loading. I mean, commercial valuations don't really appreciate a whole lot beyond the initial development. But the value of this is to try to help make the development financially viable. And by pushing it to the end of it, it has, I would say, less value than.
Let's be honest, it's to get it off the ground. And to get it off the ground is when you need
It's
to.
the biggest costs.
If we are going to do a work session on this, I would highly recommend bringing Washington County, maybe our fire department, on the discussion of this.
Our fire chief has been a part of
And the schools, yes. Whoever else would be affected by not getting this increased tax valuation of improved property.
Tom, I hear you.
The school's already been eliminated.
I hear you, but also without this, there is no new valuation, there is no new tax revenues. So it's either they get part of something with the development happening, or they get nothing if the development doesn't happen. It's all new revenues, it's all increase.
To answer your question here, it says here on the proposal, year 1 to 10, 1%, year 11 to 15, 50. When we switch that and go 50 for the first obviously the math would add up, but maybe the first 5 years is at 50 and then the rest of it's 100.
What is that, Daniels?
It's the same dollars.
It is the same dollar, but I'm just saying that kind of what Tom was saying, where we're not gonna get the, I guess there's not gonna be revenue either.
I'm not in favor of a 15-year deal here. I think we need to do it. I mean, that's a long time. And I have some things that are probably gonna affect the project eventually, but currently water and sewer mains are across the highway.
Correct.
Cost to remove them, or get them across. I'm sure the DOT's gonna do some turn lane changes. Gonna have to change traffic lights.
I guess all of that would be infrastructure, that would be the responsibility of the developer to,
Well, then we need to have it,
yeah, that'd be a part of
we don't get
typical.
$300,000 deal from this later.
That'd be part of the developer agreement, though, not the technical.
Even running the mains.
Correct, I mean, that's all our codes, they're responsible for getting towards that.
I would like to see that included.
How long would it take to build this?
I don't know, I think at this point in time, it's discussion on incentives rather than project development specifics.
Well, on this one, and this is the, let's see. Yeah, so your versions 1 through 3, the city revenue finally comes into play on year 2039. And that's why I was saying, if you brought it up,
So Edgar, if you look at version 2, that was Alan and I's counter offer so that there would be revenue throughout the entire agreement. That would be my recommendation to you guys, that regardless, that we would want to have some portion of revenue coming in. We'll still have water and utility revenue coming in, sales tax coming in, but in the best interest of service stability, it would be ideal to have some portion of revenue throughout this entire agreement.
Yeah, version 2 was the favorable one for me.
I will say you guys are, anytime these, development opportunities do come up, it is a tough decision to be in because you have to identify what is the appropriate amount, and there isn't necessarily a easy way to determine what the appropriate amount is. I think at the end of the day, you have to find, is this in the best interest of the city? Does it make the project happen? And then use your discretion there to make decisions.
Yeah, I think the other thing to keep in mind is this is a projection, but it's also dependent on some assumptions. So just because the numbers that you see here, are what comes out of the model, that doesn't mean that's what it will be either. It's dependent on the valuation at the end of the project and that type of thing. So if the expectation is that we're gonna come out of further discussions with a specific number, I don't think that's what we're looking to get. We're just looking to get an idea of, again, whether or not we have support for this project, and I think we do, and that what the city needs to get out of it. So, it's not just we want to get as much as we can. If there are certain things that we think we need tax revenue for to help support this project, let's identify what those are. And we kind of talked about that a little bit. And there are things that may come about from the result of this project that we want to make sure the city's not footing the bill for in the years at the front of the city. But again, the developer has to have this be a viable project for them to, to your point, Edgar, I don't think it makes sense to have a higher property tax.
Well, no, what I'm
At
saying,
the beginning and then lower it toward.
well, the version 2 is what I was talking about.
Gotcha.
So we didn't catch that over here this side.
Yeah, and I guess I'll ask them, so that version 2 is what we came up with the counter offer. Version 3 was the counter to our counter, and I'll ask the development group. Version 3, in the model anyway, the number is higher than version 1. Can you explain the thinking behind that?
I think it was us recognizing that, having a share early on for you guys was important, which we understand. The number was higher because most of the dollars are later in the 15-year cycle. So I guess more of the present value of the cash flows is actually lower than our original version. So from a present value standpoint, it's a lesser number. Yeah. So because most of the money's backloaded versus front loaded.
Yeah. Okay.
Everything we're in favor of, we just need to look at numbers closer and have a work session.
All right.
I do want to say we are coming up on some construction cycle periods here that are important too. If we're looking to get open at the beginning of next season, and this is pretty much right at the point where we need to go
One
or
thing
not
too is,
go.
we're limited time to pull, so I'm thinking the sooner the better. Like, I don't know how next week looks for everybody, but
We can schedule something for next week, so what does the work session look like then? What are we looking to cover and accomplish?
that was my question.
I will say the other piece of this on the construction side, so incentives aside, we have to be able to annex the property, have authority to inspect and apply codes. So on the next county board of supervisors meeting, they'll be considering a agreement for basically giving us consent to apply our building codes and inspection processes to the project. Without that, we're no use to the developers until annexation is complete. So that's something we just need to make sure that's done, and we can get the pre-annexation agreement in place, which will determine it's a 100% voluntary full owner annexation. So that would mean that it should be a fairly smooth process, but annexations always take about 6 months. Having a pre-annexation agreement and the consent from the county allows us to move forward with construction before the annexation is complete. And that also, we would need to figure out the incentives conversation, whether that's going to be, we have a draft agreement and it's approved by the county, or it's something that we have a draft agreement that a development agreement and we're waiting on annexation to be complete to go through the formal approval process. But that would be, some of the things you have to be considerate of to make sure that all things are moving forward. But I guess go ahead.
Has Brian, have you been involved in,
I have, yes.
so you could be at the work session?
I guess to go back to Alan's question, what would be the thing we need to get out of the work session?
Well, for the Washington County Sheriff's Department, one, I would ask them to be here to see with the amount of activity they're expecting at this new project, are they going to have to hire more deputies, acquire more vehicles and equipment? Our Riverside Fire Department, I would ask them to be here. Are they going to be required to buy new equipment for possible water rescuing that they may not have in hand now, and what that looks like? I'd also ask for our county supervisor also to be here, or input from him.
I assume you guys are gonna have lifeguards.
We will have, I'm not personally. We'll probably have 50 lifeguards. Then we need to hire and train.
So,
I guess what would be helpful to know is what specific pieces of information would we, you mentioned potential costs of law enforcement and emergency response, but when it comes to, that is great and all, but to get into the actual rebate percentages, that's the ultimate, the term length and rebate percentages are ultimately what are points of negotiation or change on the agreement are. To get all of that is like essentially an assumption we're making until the actual assessment happens after the project's been complete. So we can't necessarily sit here and say, we need to cover $15,000 worth of additional expenses because we don't know what the total property is going to assess at, what the total tax generated would be, and how much we would actually be getting based off of that rebate. So, go ahead.
Well, can you do like a certain percentage? Because I'm figuring out these version 1, 2, and 3, what's kind of our return in a sense. Version 1 is 6.37, version 2 is 13.49, and third version is 5.26. Maybe we could find something in the middle and say, hey, this is the number that we want to kind of hit. And in this meeting, we should also have a casino. So looking at these three numbers, you're averaging probably about around 10%. So maybe we look at it that way.
What do you suggest, Cole? We want to try to get everybody organized for a discussion.
I understand why you want that. I guess I'm not really sure what the full value is. Essentially, how much money we'd be getting out of this is ultimately determined, as I mentioned, what it assesses at. And we can plan out what these costs would be, but we have no guarantee that we would be getting that much money to cover it. I mean, I've talked with Fire Chief Chad Smothers about this extensively, even going as far as looking at, with this type of development, what would we want for fire extinguisher, fire hydrant placement, as well as what equipment we would need for on water rescue, and figuring out all of that. I think we still have to be very considerate, and I'll be the first one to get in line about not giving private sector more than is needed to make things happen. I've worked in the public sector my entire life. I believe in it, believe in the value of it, but at the same time, we also be considerate of, in order for us to get the benefit out of this, we do have to act with, I would say, some diligence to make sure that the project moves forward. Because if the project is delayed or it doesn't happen, we are at that point losing opportunity costs, which I guess, Alan, to get to the short of your question, I don't know that we need to be getting every group involved in it when ultimately there's little impact that would be coming out of those conversations as far as the agreement goes. I think we just need to identify something that it produces us revenue, is fair, it makes the project happen. It's something that we're not losing. We're making money and then moving forward.
Yeah, I think property tax revenue is not the only thing that this.
No, when we talk about utilities, local option sales tax.
Yeah, local option sales tax, just bringing people into the community that support other local businesses as well. So I think we need to keep that in mind too, and not necessarily be solely focused on the property tax impact. Go ahead.
Is there structures on this tip that we can adjust?
So term length and rebate percentage. So the total term length of the agreement, and so you can go up to 23 years for an economic development TIF. And then your rebate percentage can go all the way from 1% to 100%. So you have some leeway there. But ultimately, like, as I mentioned, we don't have any control of the actual total prop tax receipts. So we just have to come up with what is a portion that we are comfortable with, regardless if it assesses at $1 million or 45 million. I think we just have to be comfortable with that percentage. But there's also, you can set a not to exceed. So if you're concerned about a top end amount, you can certainly set that with the development agreement.
Can you revisit? So can you have it into like 3 structures, like every 5 years it's revisited and readjusted?
I would say that we probably, I don't want to speak for the development team, but I would have to assume that'd be pretty difficult if you needed to get additional financing, where you would have some difficulty and uncertainty with what your revenues would be. I will say from the city perspective, it's already difficult enough for us to plan out, projecting revenues because it seems about every 3 years our property tax system gets major overhaul. Regardless of what you think about it, it's something that instability makes it difficult to plan.
I'm talking from my own personal experience, like I said, TIF is new, but I think that you and Alan have done a great job visiting and getting this done, but I just don't think we as the council have been able to sit around during work session and kind of clarify stuff. So what we're doing here is going over that stuff. And I just think that we should give it an hour or two to have a work session to have all of our questions answered. That doesn't mean we aren't for it. And I want to say I don't want to delay anything, but then again, at the end of the day, we're responsible to the citizens. So I don't think I have enough information clarified to, know which version.
Well, it also seems like a kind of a negotiation right now of what versions, what needs to be changed a little bit here and there.
Correct, and I think that's like based off of the negotiations that Alan and I have come up with. This is where we're at. Ultimately, it's going to come back to city council for final consideration. I guess my question was, if we were to have a work session, I would think the major things we would want to look at are term length and rebate percentage. Those are the things we would need to, and potentially a not to exceed amount. That's would be the what's at our disposal.
Would the casino be at this meeting, and 2, would they be interested in a 23-year, or do they have certain requirement 10?
It's a public meeting, so they could attend. However, I would highly recommend, highly advise against a agreement longer than it needs to be. The reason, you look at, say, a 15 rather than a 10 is, that you have a developer ask, they need to get around, based off of their pro forma and request, need to get around that $3 million amount. How we get to that amount can be flexible, but the longer you go, the future value of that decreases. It also extenuates the period of time where we're rebating a portion of those property tax revenues, and the quicker that we can get back to 100% full valuation, the better, albeit we don't want to be foregoing needed revenues if we can't. That's why we looked at doing even 90% for a few years, so that we always have something with new valuation to help pay for some of those expenses that we're expecting.
Well, in a sense, I'm kind of, if we can find a middle ground with version 1 and version 2. I just think that version 3 is too low.
It's also, and maybe the developer doesn't have a problem with this, but this is not the casino. This is the owner of the casino, the ownership group of the casino, but this is a different business. It's like Pepsi and Quaker Roads.
Actually, that was on my list of questions.
Yeah,
Who are we dealing with? Is it,
Elite Hospitality LLC is the ownership group.
one piece of paper says Black Farm?
Yes, so it's
And KKMB Real Estate owns the property right now, according to the county.
correct.
So we need to know who we're talking to.
It's
I can clarify that. KKB has sold the property to Elite Hospitality Group, so Elite Hospitality Group is in title to the property.
Okay,
now.
thank you.
And Elite Hospitality Group is an affiliate of Elite Casino casino resorts.
I'm assuming,
And
Blackjack.
Blackjack Beach is gonna be the name. of
That's
the
just a
resort.
trade, that's just a trade name, yeah.
Same with Riverside Casinos under.
Yeah, I just want to be careful in our discussions that we're.
I guess I would be happy to have a work session, but
Well, and I would say, I don't want a work session just for the sake of a work session, so we have to have some goals going into that. It sounds like there are questions, let's get those questions to Cole so that they can be discussed and answered next week. I don't know that a work session is the time to be negotiating this deal, so if that's the expectation, I don't think that's the way we want to handle it. Again, we get an idea of what the city council's requirements or objectives are going into this agreement, but I don't think we're gonna go back and forth and talk about the specifics of the agreement. I don't know that you want to do that in a work session necessarily, and I don't think it's most advantageous for us either.
need some reasonable parameters on what are we trying to accomplish, and if we can deliver an agreement that meets that, great.
So any questions on that? So I'm just gonna summarize here what we were talking about for the work session. So we want representation from law enforcement, fire department, the county, the attorney, is that, do we want them
Bond counsel.
here as well?
I will say like there's the rebate percentage is equally applied to all taxing entities of the new revenues. So if it's 90%, we would all get 10% of the new revenues, aside from the excluded levies. But what I would say is like there's no option to say give the school their full percentage, regardless of if the development team desired to or not. That's not within the law to do. This has to be a equal representation across all tax entities. That's something we've discussed with our bond counsel, and it's not something that's an option for us. So it would have to be, the rebate percentage would apply to everyone.
So you talked to them specifically about this,
Correct.
so if you could relay that information to us, that would help. You said you talked to the fire chief.
Yep.
If we have that information, stuff like that, I guess is what I'd like to be updated on is, how they looked at it.
And that's where this format came from, is from the bond council and discussions with them on how the agreement could be structured. So I guess we didn't say specifically that we worked with them to get that, but I know it was
Well,
mentioned.
and that's
that we
just it, I
were
guess.
going to have discussions with them.
I guess that helps to know that.
All right, so we'll work on getting that scheduled next Monday. Let's
Yeah.
plan on that, and with this many people involved, I don't know that we necessarily even have every.
Get invites out, that's
the best we can for that.
6 p.m., July 13th.
It's, yeah. Any other discussion on this? Like I said, if people have specific questions or things you want to know, get them to Cole, because we can't, just like you can't plan or know every discussion we have, we can't know what's in your mind and you want to know about this either. All right. Go back to- All right. Cool.
Ready for next-
Continue on that.
Thank you.
Thanks, thank you for your time.
Thank you. Thanks, guys.
If you have any questions, good job, thanks.
Give me one moment here. All right. So I have a draft agreement for residential and solid waste recycling collection services. This is largely the exact same contract we have with our current hauler, updated for names, as well as, let's see here. term length. So this would go from August 24th, which would be the Monday following the termination of the current hauler, through June 30th, 2031. Let's see here. Josh, did you have additional questions or?
I just came down to answer any questions
Okay.
they might have. Did you get our email about like the 6 a.m. possible start time?
Okay, that would be altered, yes, let me check that.
While we're doing that, my one question would be, have you making progress with having cans?
We have our carts coming in early August. So we'll have everything delivered.
Tried to coordinate with the current hauler, but not had a response, but it's also.
I didn't figure that out.
Yeah.
The other piece, Ryan, is it's the risk of something changing or falling through on that is not worth the service it like impacts to our residents, to where.
Oh, yeah, no, 100%. I like that.
Yeah.
Yes, I just want to make sure that you would have them.
Yeah, we'll have them delivered to us early August. Everybody will have their carts the week before, or by the Friday before the last pickup for LRS. So as soon as their carts are, what's that?
You are taking the old.
No,
We've talked about it a little bit. I think we're gonna give LRS a chance to pick them up. Hopefully they will. If they don't, we will.
Okay,
if it,
that's all I need to do.
I believe it would become, if they did not collect it, I'd have to talk to our city attorney, but I believe it would become abandoned property that, at that point, we'd have to figure out what happened to them.
About how much time frame is that when it's abandoned property? Do you know?
I don't know off the top of my head.
I mean, I may have a
I think it's
dumpster
60 or
for sale
90.
if you're interested.
What's that? Oh, we can take it off your hands. Yeah, once it becomes abandoned.
But anyways, so Steph and I met with Josh last week, the week before, to go over what a potential transition would look like based upon the start date of service on August 24th. We kind of worked backwards to figure out when can delivery would need to occur, as well as when we would get information out to residents on, give them an opportunity to alter their can selection. And then at that point, we lock it in and that's what we delivered. So that'll be going out yet, I think this week is what our plan was. And then by the end of the month, can selection will be complete. And then at that point, we're waiting on this, getting close to delivery. So.
Sounds good.
Yeah.
Thank you.
I guess, Josh, I do see here from Wes, the 3 points you had was altering from 7 a.m. to 7 to 4 p.m. to a start at 6 a.m. We've had 7 a.m. for some time. Does City Council have any thoughts on that alteration? 6 a.m. start collection time?
Yeah, but that's the town. I think as long as we make sure everybody is aware of that, it's not a problem.
It really helps us to be able to get some of the main drag in the area by the school done before that traffic starts picking up there.
As long as they know they have to have it occupied.
The other request you had was, instead of so this agreement is less than 5 years, but there is like an automatic where if both party consent, it could be a 3-year renewal. The request was for 5. I don't feel nothing against you guys.
I think what he put in there was just an option for 5.
Yeah.
So it'd be 3 and 5. It just helps us with the bank, gives us a little more leverage if we have the option in the contract.
Yeah, I have concerns about going to a 5-year renewal. So I think it's a pretty long without going through a competitive process. I think 3 is respectful of our needs, and it also gives fair turnaround if we don't have anything set up.
What time do you plan on ending the day?
Well, if we start at 6 and we've got 2 trucks here in town, we'd be out of town by 10 o'clock.
4 p.m. would be the cutoff, but that gives us in case of service issue or.
Breakdown, storms, knocking over cans, stuff like that, we'd always be out of town by 4.
Well, I just looked at the contract in section 3, it says time period is 7 AM to 4. Should that be changed?
Say that one more time.
Should that-
Yeah, we'll update this, so I can update these based off of these, your guys' consideration here, but the other one I guess I've been seeing here from feedback is on garbage stickers, it says that, the city would have to approve any kind of markup on the stickers. Currently, I think stickers are like $3 or $3.50. But for this to say be sold at like Casey's or Dollar General or something like that, or often the retailer's gonna wanna have a markup on it to pay for their time of selling them. I don't honestly know that Casey's even sells our current
They don't.
haulers anymore. I don't necessarily see it as a huge deal, but in this case, say they're $3, they sold them for $3.25 or $3.50. I think that's fair, but I think we would still want to approve the markup to make sure it's fair.
We haven't had stickers for years, right?
We have them, they're just for like, extra trash. So,
Extra trash and bulk items.
Is that also purchased in connection with the city hall?
yes,
lot?
at the lowest rate you can buy them here. So,
So we don't have a very good markup?
it's really not, it's kind of a non-issue, to be honest with you, unless you wanted to, other retailers wanted to sell them, we would just need to approve a markup for them. So if they wanted to sell them at $3.25, say they're $3, they wanted to sell them at $3.25, we would just need to approve that they're sold at $3.25 before Smith would deliver them, so that's all.
What number are we on?
Sorry, let me go to
44?
the minutes here.
Area where I was.
Is it 44?
Yeah, that's the last one.
Yeah, 44. Stephanie, what were you gonna say?
Just that the yard waste collection will also be handled a little bit differently. Today, we actually have bags that we buy from LRS, and they come by the bag. The way that they are doing it is they would sell a sticker that would be put on the bag. So we would essentially buy bulk bags from like Lowe's or Menards, so that we have the option for them to have a bag and the sticker, rather than just having the bag that they come and get currently. And then they have to have the sticker on it. But otherwise, if we're not providing those to residents, they're going to buy them themselves, causes another inconvenience. But from what I've researched, it's essentially gonna be the same price for what they're currently paying today if we're just buying the bags and providing bulk items to them at City Hall. Just a little bit of a different process to make sure your sticker is attached.
So we'll buy bags and then the cost to the resident would be the
Stickers.
stickers at the city. So we will eat the cost for the bags then.
No, essentially, it should be around the same because
It'll
we're
be
paying like
okay.
$1.50 for the sticker.
Like a Lowe's bag is a good amount cheaper than the LRS bags were. That's how you pay for your service with the LRS bags. But if they just go and get Lowe's bags and then you add in the price of the tag, it's gonna be the same as what the LRS bag was.
And as long as we had I think the ability to set the price on that sticker, you guys would receive the $1.50 of it, and then we would be able to set the price to cover the rest of the costs.
So I'll make a motion to approve resolution 2026-44, resolution to award the contract for solid waste and recycling collection services, with the changes that we noted to 6 AM start time.
So there. All right, just to be clear on the change, the 6 AM start time was 1.
Yep.
Is there anything else?
Uh, Just the garbage stick, not the garbage stickers, I think clarifying that in the schedule of fees, that we'll set the price of the yard stickers, so that it can, well, I guess state the amount that is paid to Smith Sanitation, but we're gonna set the actual, resident or customer facing side price, so that we can account for the service as well as the bag.
So the term we decided on was 3 years.
No, so the contract will be for a little under 5. What I was talking about is there's an automatic renewal clause that if both parties mutually decide, yes, we want to do this, it would be for a 3-year term. They requested 5. Unless-
What we've got in the packet is that
Say it one time.
it's 3 years.
Yes.
of Agreement that's in the packet, and that's what it'll remain.
Correct.
So do we need to come up with that number for the retailers right now?
No, so that'll be dependent upon the cost of the bags. We'll have to shop around and find the best cost for that, but
It could be that we can find the best cost having them shipped to us from an online retailer as well. It's just that Lowe's and Hards were the best example of.
Yeah.
I think we could probably get them at a better price somewhere else bulk.
Any other discussion? Hearing now, we'll take a roll call vote to approve that. Rogerson.
Aye.
Key. Sexton.
Aye.
Schneider.
Aye.
And McGuire.
Aye.
It's approved. Thank you.
Thank you.
Jackie.
All right, can we circle back to the Washington issue?
yes, we can.
Aaron, go ahead.
Hello.
All right, I got May's stats as well as June's. For May 2026, Riverside had a total of 137 calls for service, with 91 of those being traffic stops. 11 of those calls were to the casino. In comparison to May 2025, Riverside had 99 calls for service, 59 traffic stops, and 14 of those were to the casino. For June 2026, Riverside had 104 calls for service, 53 of those being traffic stops, 11 of those calls to the casino. In comparison to June of 2025, Riverside had 84 calls, 38 of those were traffic stops, 14 calls to the casino.
Okay.
Any questions?
No.
Okay, there you go then. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, let's keep.
Ready? All right. So, next item would be 8C, setting up a public hearing on ordinance amendments. This would be an ordinance amending chapters 92, 95, and 9 of the city code of ordinances here. So this would be for water rates, sewer rates, and then moving a fee that's established in, chapter 99, moving that taking it from 95 to putting it to 99. So no change in the actual outside of the city service, outside of the city sewer service charge, but moving it to chapter 99 where all the other sewer service charges are established. It's more of an administrative cleanup there to make sure everything's centralized as what the fees would be. The fee updates here across the board for minimum charges or the flat rate and rates all would be the 3.5% increase. We have not increased our water sewer rates since 2015, which we should be doing this on an annual basis. This is something I wanted to get this moving in the right direction, make an update here for this year, and then once we get a new city administrator in the position, have them look at a more long-term increase structure, so where it's a set amount for a longer period of time, so it's affordable, but it's also something people can plan around, and it also meets the needs of the service keep up those costs. So with that being said, the flat rates for 150,000 would go from $12 to $12.42. And for the rate would go from $6 to $6.21 for each 1,000 gallons used. And then from the over 50,000 would go from 8 to 8.28 per 1,000. So yeah, 3.5% across the board. What does this actually look like for a bill? We're talking, for a household that uses, say, 4,000 gallons of water a month, 4 times 21 for the rate, 81 cents, plus your $42.20. And you do that water sewer side, we're talking $2.50, for a household that uses, 4,000 gallons a month. So we're not talking a dramatic increase in costs, but it's a small amount that over the course of the year and all the households, it does, produce a little bit more revenue. So,
What does that look like for our revenue?
Yeah, that's what I was gonna ask.
So,
I'm sure you've done the math. What is the actual revenue increase for the city?
let's see, we're around 414,000 per year in water revenues. So times 1.035, it would generate about an extra $14,000 per year for this. And keep in mind, as I said, this is supposed to get us to someone new coming in here and then taking this on and doing a longer term change, but about a $14,000 increase over the year for
Just in water.
just for water. So then you add up to sewer, another 14, so 28,000 in additional revenues.
It's closing the gap to where we legally need to be to make it
Correct.
self-sufficient.
Yeah, it's not night and day, but it's something, and it also it probably needs to be raised even further, that looking at comparison to our surrounding communities, as well as what it costs to maintain both the facilities and service. This is something we are statutorily required to, have it pay for itself, be self-supporting. So yeah, that's something that we need to be kind of front of mind moving forward.
You'll have to forgive me, obviously, in this few years, but, so our expenditures on water and sewer are X amount. We're short.
No, it's not the operation side, it's capital costs. So we've done some pretty heavy investments in both the facilities, to where you don't have we didn't have the revenues at a high enough level to meet the capital cost there. So that's something, looking at long-term capital placement needs to be factored into your rate
I
structure.
think it's 3.5%.
No, this is to get some progress for this upcoming year while we look at a more long-term solution for rates. I will say we do have looking at, I try to look at the total basket of costs for city services for residents, including property taxes. And we do have the lowest property taxes in the entire county, here in Riverside, of all cities. I think that's something to keep in mind, that, we want to keep providing services, but they do cost to provide. So that means we do have some limitations on the property tax side. And we need to make sure our water and sewer are paying for themselves. So
And not just on operations, but improvements.
yes, capital costs as well.
Yeah. And what would that figure look like to you? $28,000?
I guess without taking a larger look at the critical components of both facilities, to figure out what what their lifespan would be and the cost to replace, you can get a capital replacement cost based off of that, which would tell us that we need to save this amount and have that portion of your rate would be capital costs, not to mention average cost increase. I will say, like, we've seen, as far as, construction costs, and just general operation costs, is unfortunately does outpace the, I guess, consumer inflation. But you also have to remember that, CPI is the, inflation that's applied toward residents and customers, that although our costs are outpacing that, like, affordability and ability to pay is something we still have to be considerate of, but we also have to make sure that they're well funded, so.
Well, I also want to say that I would rather do a little bit larger chunks of percentage, maybe every few years or a couple of years, but I don't like the idea of every year.
I mean, it would be you would set it by ordinance, it's a 10-year plan, and it would be something that you'd set it once and you wouldn't revisit it for another 10 years because the schedule's already been created. It would give some consistency for residents and businesses as far as what they would anticipate to spend on that. But you also have to think of, like, as mentioned, future value of, so getting $1 today and 10 years may be worth, say, $1.20 or so. If we can save that, especially for capital costs, we can also let interest build on that to help pay for those, so we're not having to go that full on the residents and customers to pay. So there's things to consider. I would encourage you to not get too focused on perfect and exact. Better is better in this situation, and I think that's kind of reflective of tonight's ordinance. Set the public hearing. We're not considering the ordinance tonight. This is just setting the public hearing, because if we're setting fees that are related to residents, we need to have a public hearing for that to give them an opportunity to have questions or concerns about any kind of utility rate increases.
When's the last time you had an increase?
Like I said, I think 2015.
Okay. So that study was way before you, but was 3.5% about what they were suggesting at that time?
I have no clue. Honestly, I don't know. Like I said, this is a short term. Let's get some increase and then do a longer term solution.
Yeah, I think we've had this discussion every year and we have not made any progress. I think the goal is to at least try to save.
Travis texting me.
So, yeah, I think this was just an intent to do something. Like Cole said, this isn't, it's hard to say what the correct amount is, but the correct amount, I think it's pretty safe to say it's not zero.
Yeah.
And we're looking at what would be an appropriate increase that's not going to, I won't say cause financial hardship. I don't want to have spikes in the rates.
Yeah.
To your comment earlier, I think the more, frequent and smaller increases we can make, I guess, in my mind, better.
Well, maybe, sorry, I think if we have the numbers of what we spent, maybe since 2015, every year on capital / maintenance, the operations, I'd like to see some numbers and see what.
Sure, but that, again, history is that we ask for those numbers and then we end up doing nothing. So that's.
Well, how about we do something, but again, the reason why I say, I've heard a lot of people say they would rather have bigger chunks over X amount of years versus every year. And I do agree, like, for planning, maybe not for people, but maybe a little bit, I guess, but businesses are kind of figuring out their budgets, and I guess they automatically put 3.5% every year, but I guess, how much are we off? Are we off 4%? I mean, can we charge 5% now and then, get some ideas of what numbers are, and maybe in 3 years we can look at it again?
This is just to get the ball rolling that we discussed last week.
I think over your next city administrator we'll need to work on this. This is just, let's get something, so it's better.
Yeah.
And then whoever comes next will be part of that.
Last meeting.
So as an example, if we go a 5% increase over a 3.5% increase, that's an additional $12,000 that we're in. So it's not necessarily a huge impact. I don't think the number is going to necessarily fall in line, but again, the goal is to try to take action on it.
Well, I think that we should do that for sure. But I'm just saying, I'd rather pay 5% every 2 years than 3.5% every year.
Okay, so what is the resolution number?
This is just in the public hearing.
Oh, okay.
August 3rd, I won't be here, so, you guys will have a public hearing, and you'll be able to do your first reading and go through that, but yeah, 7-day public hearing will be 45.
Okay, I'll make a motion to do resolution 2026-45 to set a public hearing for the chapters 92, 95, and 99 Code of Ordinance for the water rate change.
And sewer, yeah.
And sewer.
Second.
And is that for August 3rd then?
Say it one time.
Is it for August 3rd, correct? then?
August 3rd, correct.
All right, any discussion?
Sorry, actually, this also, one thing I didn't mention, it does change, so that deposits, can be set by resolution. Chapter 9209, renter deposit shall be set by resolution included in the schedule of fees. The deposit amount shall not exceed 90 days worth of the usual cost of utility. That's the 90-day, that's set by state law. But this just makes, we didn't have anything prior that clearly established how what the mechanism was for setting that renter's deposit. This clears it up so that as utility rates increase or as consumption changes, that we have the ability to more easily update those to reflect the current needs of the utility.
So that's set by utilities, right?
And that's specifically to renters or?
That's what we only have, the only deposit we have is for tenants or renters, yeah. And that is, partially due, so the state law does actually require the lien exemption. So if a renter moves, does not pay the final bill, or whatever may happen, we have an ability to recoup some of that cost before having to go through like income tax methods of recouping that. If someone moves out of the state, they don't file taxes, there is no method for us to recoup that cost. For property owners, we have property taxes that we can assess to. We can always put a lien against the property to get that payment back. So that's the reason why there's a renter's deposit but not a property owner deposit.
So we wouldn't have situations where somebody can sell the property, move on and not pay the balance that they have.
You could,
You can.
But-
It still would be assessed to the property, so whether you own the property and it got assessed to you, or Kevin bought it and it got assessed to him, it's assessed to the property.
we always recommend
So-
that property owners, before you close on something, that the buyer, so the seller ensures that the buyer has put the property into their name for utilities, and that the buyer has verified that everything is free and clear. We unfortunately can't verify that. We've had certain times where someone's come in, so-and-so didn't pay the water bill and they don't have a way to collect it. So then it becomes the new owner has to pay it.
Okay.
Yeah. One of the joys of home ownership.
All right. Any other discussion? Okay, we'll take a roll call vote for that resolution. McGuire.
Aye.
Schneider.
Aye.
Sexton.
Yes.
Key. Aye. All right, so it's approved, the public hearing on August 3rd.
Another public hearing, we received a rezoning request. So this is something, has been reviewed by our city engineer, city attorney. We need to have this reviewed by planning and zoning. But this is a reminder for rezoning, your three necessary components are your publication and public hearing, your planning and zoning review, and your city council review. Their only order of operations is planning and zoning must come before city council, and the public hearing and publication must come before the city council as well. So at this point, this is setting a public hearing. So my plan was to try to get, see if I get quorum, since I'll be done end of next week, to see if I could get quorum and have a planning and zoning meeting to review this. And if not, this would be something that Terry and as well as Brian or Nick at Axiom have been involved in, that they would be able to run that meeting to get a recommendation before it would come back to city council for your consideration. So at this point in time, I included the original application. It's actually a C3 to M1 rezoning request. This is Enterprise Drive by Maverick. This is the largest lot of them. I included a parcel report from Beacon showing what it would be. It would be taking all of this and putting it into M1, which based on, actually, I won't be here for it, so I'll tell you now. But looking at our land use compatibility matrix, which is established in our future land use plan, which is kind of a guiding document for these type of considerations. Light industrial use is compatible with a C3 commercial space. Dan, our city attorney, and then Brian, city engineer, didn't have any concerns with it. They just mentioned some of the surfacing stuff, which we've already discussed. So at this point, we'll go to planning and zoning for their consideration, and we'll do our publication. So that's all taken care of. But any questions on setting a public hearing for the rezoning request?
Signage posted.
There will be. Yep, so 7 days, at least 7 days prior to the public hearing, a 12 by 18 sign will be posted at the property. And then we'll also have the public hearing notice in the paper. So both of those will be used. Yeah, and don't get to, like, there's a couple like preliminary site plans in here. This is not a site plan review. This was just included for information about the use of the property. So any questions on the rezoning request or public hearing?
Well, if this property moves forward, which I assume it probably will, we really are gonna have to reconsider the traffic flow out there on that intersection. This is gonna bring a heck of a lot more traffic to there. It's already an issue now. Trucks pulling trailers with probably long poles. I'll make a motion to approve resolution 2646, set a public hearing for the proposed zoning classification amendment and that'd be the August 3rd meeting.
Correct.
Second by Keenan. So it's motion by Sexton, second by Keenan. Any discussion? Hearing none, we'll take a roll call vote on that. Rogerson. Aye. Keenan. Aye. Sexton. Aye. Schmier.
Aye.
And Dwyer.
Aye. She's leaving you out.
All right, continue on.
All right, next thing we have here are wage adjustments for fiscal year 2027. Last we tabled it. You guys asked for copies of the performance evaluations. I have shared those with all of you last week. I also sent out, I guess 2 hours ago this afternoon, a total compensation for this current year, as well as with the proposal, the wage increases here. But this is, I guess, my recommendation. If you guys have questions, I'd be happy to get into it, but,
I think it looks good.
this is reflective of the feedback I had in the performance evaluations, so.
I'll make a motion to approve resolution 2026-47. Fiscal year 2027 wage adjustments for city staff.
I have a question. Is there any, like, review, or I should say, processes in our handbook?
Correct, yes.
There is. And you get a raise before your first year?
In this case, I feel that, I guess there's nothing that stipulates that someone isn't eligible for a raise prior to completion of their first year. The alternative is that, Carrie will be waiting for a year and a half. I do also think that, she has been a valuable member of the team. We did start her off at the, I think close to the bottom end of our initial, wage there. I think that she is, I guess, deserving of an increase. I still think it's, we're talking anyways.
Well, I'll second it for discussion, but are you done? No, you finished.
So she's part-time,
Correct,
and then we only do these once a year,
correct.
same time every year?
May, generally is when we do them. Yeah. And Carrie is full-time, so she's 32 to 34 hours a week is where she's at. That was what the hiring, I guess, announcement was, between 32 to 40 hours a week. That's.
Question I would have, would you leave and why would you have a consideration for you on here?
I will still be working for 2 weeks. I also have an employment contract that states that with satisfactory performance evaluation, I do get that increase. You'll also see this change is effective for the full year. I'm only here for 2 weeks, so we're not talking.
Well, I'm just thinking, this sets a new number for, if we're searching for a city administrator now. It looks like we'll have to be having this number as a base number, we're advertising, so. I'm just curious.
I don't know, I think that position is for qualifications.
Well, and like, yeah, we can establish a different range if we want to. I think most likely somebody coming into that position is going to expect around what we're paying now. But yeah, like Cole said, in terms of this discussion, that's not optional, that's not discretionary, that's what we have within his agreement.
I guess, my understanding, I thought when we hired the deputy clerk, it was for 40 hours, maybe I misunderstood that. So giving somebody that percentage of raise when they don't even work 40 hours, I don't, again, I just think for less than a year and for that percentage and rate. Because I guess in all fairness, I'm here to represent everybody, but when we're looking at people that have been here years and that'll take them up within a couple dollars of guys that are working outside doing. And we did start in between because it was 22 to 24. So that's just my opinion. So when I go it out, I just want to let you know what.
That's a valid
I just think there's guys that are putting out in the cold and heavy equipment and stuff like that. And like I said, if somebody's gonna work 40 hours, that's a whole different thing. That's a way of making up wages and stuff. So I don't know, did anybody else think it was Less than 40?
I was under the impression that it was less than 40.
And one thing, I know this is gonna sound weird, but I actually think one of them needs to go up a little bit more. So I think she's gonna have a lot more responsibilities for a little bit. Maybe you could offset her next evaluation, but I think, Stephanie, sorry. I think she should just get a little bit more, because she's gonna be really going through a lot the next few months.
Do you have any recommendation?
Well, I think it, so she's gonna be, the new one would be a 3070, maybe 3150.
I have an issue with that.
I would say if this motion fails, we need to come back and probably look at, make adjustments of what the council feels on these employees. Cause I think some, our outside help, I've walked around the parks and I just think they can do better. I walked through there, I picked up brick, chunks of wood, tree debris. And it just seems like they mow over it and ignore it, which I think there could be a little more effort getting off the mower and pick this stuff up. And that's just one example, so.
Well, I would also agree with, that we need to look at that part-time or full-time or whatever you want to call it. Just feel like, I mean, maybe a 50-cent bump, maybe $1, but not even being 1 year. I just feel like cannot be completely full 40 hours.
I guess my question is, I mean, is she to a point where she could do a billing if, Stephanie was laid up, could she do the whole billing from start to finish?
I would say no.
I mean, that's something to me that needs to be, cross-trained, and to me, that's critical, because if something medically comes up or something, so again, that would be a one way to be, like I said, I'm not pointing to personally, it's the position for what,
Totally agree on the cross training. Oh, honestly, one of the biggest value adds Carrie's brought to the office is office coverage and assisting with things like getting expenditures ready for meetings and assisting, I guess, with all of Steph's functions, which Steph's overtime has gone down quite a bit. There's still on average overtime, but has gone down from like 10, 12, 14 hours a pay period to 2, 3, 4 instead. So I mean, there has been obviously savings involved there. But I also think it's, as far as adequate staffing goes, it's been a huge help, and she has been a great asset to the office.
Well, that's what we wanted as far as that goes, but, that's why we hired her, to not have overtime, you know what I mean? That's what I would feel if you were giving somebody, this probably isn't the time, but I know you're talking about somebody cleaning it, she doesn't have 40 hours worth, then I'm just saying this. I don't know, the job description should be changed, because there's 8 hours a week, so I don't know, my whole thing is, like I said, and I will say, I told you, I'm disappointed, because I think billing day should be a mandatory that she needs to be here. And this last time she wasn't. So when I worked, that was a mandatory, time. I guess we're gonna put out the bills, we're gonna clean up that day. So if her schedule isn't flexible, that's another, that bothers me.
Is that the situation, is Carrie has capped her hours at 32, or is that?
No, I mean, we said 32 to 40, and with that being said, she was preferred 32. It gives her an extra day where she has a business out.
So what I'm hearing is we
Yeah.
had a choice of 32 or 40, and she said I would rather have 32.
When she gets correct.
And I realize you can give full-time benefits, but she's getting full-time benefits. So if you look at her total package, I'm just saying,
If it, believe it or employee handbook 20 hours is 30, would be the threshold for full-time.
and I understand that, but I think if we're paying some of these benefits here that, I don't know, like I said, I think that
Yeah, I mean, it's a 2-hour difference and she's probably making a lot more of the benefits.
Well, let's go down the list here and see whether we have variances on what people think we should be increased. So Brian's increase, is everyone in agreement that that's acceptable? Anybody have thoughts on that one way or the other?
I was kind of just giving my numbers I feel from the top to the bottom.
Yep.
From top to the bottom, my order would be 2%, 3%, 5%, 2%, and leave it at 4.13.
Can you give me the dollar amount on
No, you do.
that?
Any thoughts on that? Does anybody agree or disagree with that?
Tom, can you say it? Can you repeat that one more time? Sorry.
From top to bottom,
Yeah.
2%, 3%, 5%, 2%, 4.13.
Okay, so we'll go down that list then instead of this one here. So Brian, 2%. Any disagreement with that?
how does IFRS work for the last 5 years? Is it 3 years or 5 years?
Average of your, I think it's 3 highest years of what they use as the average. That's what it is. I will also say, like, my recommendations were based off of performance. And I think whatever raises we should give are should be reflective of that and not simply a good faith of someone's tenure or appreciation of that.
Let me ask you this, again, it's no law for me. Did we give evaluation performance reviews to these people? Or was it just poll?
It was
Just me.
So did you get any input from them about these reviews? I mean, before?
Yeah, your computer's not working.
No, I know, I'm saying before he did the meetings, did you say what you wanted to say about the meetings?
No, and what I will say on that is we've done that version of the evaluation in the past and really haven't had a ton of feedback other than the city administrator's review. So if that's what the city council wants to do, we can have that discussion, but I think it makes sense to have a supervisor who's working with them directly on a day-to-day basis.
Yeah, that's what I was just gonna say.
I will say, on all, I guess, other than mine, all 4 of them, I did provide pretty clear feedback of here's some opportunities for improvement, as well as here's things they do good at, and that's reflective of what my recommendation.
So in a sense, Tom's complaint, he should be disappointed in staff or you, or?
I don't know if it's a disappointment per se, but I think if it seems like his recommendation, I don't want to speak for Tom, but is reflective of what he sees for performance.
Right. That's my point.
Tom, is that
You
correct?
looking, I was gonna say, you looking for an answer from something? or-
No,
Well, I just think,
well, I'm just saying, you know something that apparently you, unless you've said the same thing,
it just,
I do feel like maybe your input is more important to the review than just his. you know, you have a different perspective, you see things differently. Maybe he doesn't think that the trash that's in the area is that bad.
Well, it's just not, like I was saying, stones or roots or sticks, but, I feel like I've noticed things that should be brought to City Hall for attention and improved, especially at the park down here recently. There's tracks and ruts going through the park. Is that from someone maybe driving through there, or was it part of the construction of the pickleball court? I don't know. But has there been any mention that it should be taken care of and cleaned up, fill the tracks in, pick up the stones? I've asked about the dog park. I've had people complain about it having, after a rain, the entryway being pure mud. And when they take the dogs down after a rain and they take them back to the car, they're all muddy. And I just asked, can we get some gravel in that entryway to improve that? Now, I don't know if that's been done yet or not, but it's little things like that that don't seem like they're making an extra effort to bring forward
So
to
you need to,
anyone. I almost feel like this is something they should just take care of.
With that being said, Tom, is it the two streets and people, or is it hired?
Well, I don't know who exactly,
You know,
but
I'm just asking is, you know,
I'm speaking more of the park, which would be our outside guys. But I don't feel Carrie has been here long enough to justify the 6-point raise.
yeah.
And like we talked about, what can she actually do on her own without guidance? Has she reached the point that she can do that stuff to validate that they would increase in pay? And I think Stephanie is probably could really substantially a little more, but I think we'll just go with that. I think she's doing a great job. And Cole, we just want to kick him out the door.
Thanks, Tom. I guess the only comment I have on that is like when you have a lower wage, a percentage in dollar amount does not, I guess, comparatively change as much. I think that's something that should be considered. I think we have in the past, especially when considering other employees that are at a lower wage, to where a 3% increase, you know, does a little bit more for someone at, say, my wage versus someone who's making $20 an hour. So I think that's something that, you know, should not be completely looked over.
right, but then you're also looking at, does the wage, it's kind of like raising minimum wage. The minute you raise minimum wage, then everybody has to go up the further you go up. So to me,
Which one? This one's Brian, that's a little bit. Stephanie.
Brian Logan's look good. It's right around the 3% range. Stephanie, I agree with, maybe use a little bit more. Carrie, her direct supervisor. You know, she's done a good job with the position that we hired her for. Not going out and above that position, but what we hired her for. So I'd be fine with the recommendations. Plus, make Stephanie's a 5% increase.
Well, that's what
Yeah.
Tom had recommended, so, again, Brian, anybody disagree with?
I'm fine.
No.
Logan, anybody disagree with? 3%.
I'm fine.
Stephanie, 5%, anybody disagree with that?
No.
Okay, Carrie, 2%, anybody disagree with that?
I'm fine with 2%.
I think 2% is too low.
Okay. And Cole's, like I said, is part of his contract. So Ryan, you made the initial motion. So if you want to amend your motion to include Tom's recommendations, you're free to do that. Otherwise, we'll vote on it as.
Yeah, let's amend it to Tom's recommendation.
Okay.
I'll second.
Already been seconded by Lois.
You did?
Yep, so these,
That's not so long.
Ryan has amended his motion with those percentage increases. Lois, are you okay with that as the second?
Yes.
As well? Okay. So again, just to recap here, recommendation will be for a 2% increase for Ryan, 3% increase for Logan, a 5% increase for Stephanie, 2% increase for Carrie, and then the 4.13% increase for Cole. Everybody clear on that?
Yes.
All right, we're gonna vote on the resolution then. So Rogerson,
Aye.
Keeney. Sexton. Schneider.
Aye.
And McGuire.
Aye.
That is approved, and those are effective as of the 7/1.
Correct.
Yes.
Guys ready to man the ship? All right, so we have two items under our IEDA Community Catalyst Grant for West First Street. As you all have been made aware, our grant application for that was approved. We got the full $100,000 award. The city is the recipient of that award, but so we had to apply as part of the grant requirements. We are the holders of the grant, and it will be done for the owners of 40 West First Street. So, the first thing I've attached here is the grant award contract. This is something you have to sign, approve to get the award. This is all of their, to frank, there isn't any negotiation on this. This is, if you want the award, this is what it is. I feel comfortable with all of this. We'll also have a development agreement with the grant, so with Red Barn Ventures, who would be doing the project to, I guess, further explain how the relationship between the city and the developer will work. But the contract is between Iowa Economic Development Authority and the city of Riverside. So this is how we will receive the funds, what is the completion date of the project, all of that. Any questions on the award contract for the grant?
Are we gonna need anybody to oversee this project like we did with the downtown development?
No, not for this project. This is, the development agreement fully explains that. It's the, there's less requirements for this and less report requirements. There's only 2 grant applications for this project. It's also something where the development agreement is made, I guess it's the full responsibility of the property owner, the developer, to ensure that all invoices, reports, all of that is submitted. I've walked that through with Matt and Terry. It's also, it's their responsibility to meet the completion deadline. They don't have any concerns about that, but they will be overseeing the project. In short, there's a lot less requirements with the Community Catalyst Grant than there is with the CDBG Downtown Revitalization Project. So it'll be their responsibility. It's either they complete the work to those terms, or they don't get the money. So it's.
That's what I was gonna ask, the agreement between the city and the developer on getting this done, timing matter, if any of that comes to fault, can that jeopardize this?
Well, it would jeopardize their ability to get the money, because if they don't complete it as the grant application states, and in the timeline provided in the award contract, they simply don't get the money. That's what happens.
It's like a 100% deal or like a percentage or it's just down?
Well, if they don't complete it, I guess I've never encountered this. I don't know if anything with this grant. Just knowing the IEDA Downtown Resource Center, they are pretty understanding and, do provide some reasonable flexibility, but they also provided a 2-year completion window for a project that was anticipated, or in the application only stated 6 to 8 months to complete. So there's a fair window to get this done. And Matt and Terry have been itching to get started. They're ready to jump into this. They had financing in order. So I don't anticipate that to be an issue. And again, it's up to them fully to get this project done. If they don't get the money. So.
Okay, I'll make a motion to approve resolution 2026-48. Resolution to approve the IEDA Community Catalyst Building Remediation Grant Award Contract for 40 West First Street.
I'll second.
Is there any discussion? Hearing none, we'll take a roll call vote. McGuire.
Aye.
Schneider.
Aye.
Sexton. Key. Rogerson.
Aye.
Next, we have a development agreement. This, I would argue, is the more important of the two. This is from a template from the IEDA. They require, I think a few years back, they had a couple issues in a couple properties. They learned, hey, it's really important that a development agreement be in place. The alterations we did make to this, I'll go through this section by section, it won't take very long, but I added in section 12, payment procedures for city commitment funds. So this is, there's two portions here. We have the grant, which is the 100,000, and then the 62,500, that's the city commitment. I added, just to clarify procedures on how we would go about paying out the city portion. What I mirrored most of it, however, so the grant, there's only two pay application points. One, when there's 60% of the grant expended, in this case, that would be 60,000. And then the other 40,000 would be available at the end of the project when completed. The city portion, the 62,500, can be done on a monthly reimbursement, pending that they've submitted all of the required invoices, reports, and photographs. And that would be at a 50-50 ratio between the developer match and the city match. They're actually going to be, for the contract, for the total cost of project, contributing 94,440, but they're also responsible for everything beyond the original project cost. So they're going to, at a 50-50 rate, they're going to be always in it for the same amount of money we are, but they'll be contractually obligated to get the full grant award to expend the full 94,400. Does that make sense? So there's the reason I put that in there, because I didn't want there to be a situation where they request, so say they've done their 60,000 from the grant, that their next, say, 60,000, they're requesting 100% from the city and don't have any dollars of their own in the project. I wanted to make sure that there's equal protections on there, and the terms are clear. As long as they've completed the work, we've made this commitment, and they've shown the documentation that they're eligible for that work, and that we're not paying ahead of work that isn't completed. So does that make sense? Mm-hmm. Okay.
So all this money, is this just given to them to make the process and develop this business in this building? Is there any requirements in there that they have to be in this building and doing business in X amount of days or X amount of years for all this money? Or can they just say, this building is ready to occupy, we're gonna sell?
The purpose of
Let's see.
the program is to increase property value of things.
Correct.
So, yeah, I don't know that there is any requirement on them other than they put the money into the property where hopefully it's got value that's going to increase
Long-term.
tax revenue to the city and to the other tax entities.
And to be clear, the grant award commitment was made prior to the application. It was including the applications dependent upon this for the application or for the grant. What we're considering tonight is the development agreement itself. So the terms in here, we establish that the project is defined as in the grant application that had been previously submitted and approved by the Iowa Economic Development Authority. We build out the project completion period, which is per the contract, that the costs to reimburse are set by code, Iowa code, but they also do not include furnishings, appliances, accounting services, legal services, loan origination, or other financing costs. So it's strictly related to the building, the project itself. No prior expenses to the award letter of the grant. They have to have insurance. The scope of the work is based on what's reflected in the grant application. Work responsibilities, it is strictly the responsibility of the developer to complete this work. It is not the responsibility of the city, nor will be liable for any damages that occur during the project. The financial obligation is that split, the $62,500 from the city. The developer has, per the breakdown of the cost of $100,000 plus the $62,500. Actually, you subtract those off of the project cost, you get $94,440. Anything beyond those ratios, they are responsible for. Anything less, maybe I think that would be back because they would not be eligible for. We're not going to reimburse them anything more than that 50-50. So they can't transfer the agreement without consent. Can't modify without writing. The payment process for grant funds, as I mentioned, it would be 2 points. When 60% of the grant fund, so that's 100,000, so 60,000 when expended, they can make a request. And then the last 40% is at the end of the project. And then we've already talked about the city commitment funds. 13, basically that they need to, any kind of publication, social media stuff, they need to call out that it's sponsored by the Iowa Economic Development Authority and the city of Riverside. The city's obligation to provide funds, so that means our reimbursement to them, is contingent on funds being available to the city from the Iowa Economic Development Authority. So if Iowa Economic Development Authority changes, the program gets cut, something happens, we are not responsible to cover that cost. If the funds don't exist, if we don't have them, we're not paying them. Let's see, if the IEDA changes our contract, whatever situation that might be, they will not hold us for any damages that would occur as a result of that. Let's see here, and then also the mayor, city council, employees, immediate family members will not be paid for any work on the project. So it's just making sure that there's a competitive process for all of this. So that would be the development agreement here.
So this was taken from a template provided by the IEDA.
Correct.
What was the only change adding in that section 12, or did you make adjustments to the rest of the?
I only made adjustment to section 12, other than changing like the amounts to reflect the project. So like that 62,000 is what our application is.
Yeah.
The contract term, the names, that's was filled in.
Yeah.
So.
Any reason that the city attorney should review it prior to us accepting it?
I don't think it's a bad idea. You guys approve it pending city attorney review. I could have Dan give it a once over, and then everyone's good. We'll have it back for signature.
Any thoughts?
I'll make a motion to approve resolution 2026, 48, 47, 49. But I would like to add that the lawyer takes one look at it.
Pending city attorney review.
Second. Okay, any discussion? Hearing none, take a vote on that as well. Rogerson.
Aye.
Keen. Sexton. Schneider.
Aye.
It is approved.
One last resolution for you guys tonight. I guess, Alan, I'll let you run this one since you can talk to
It
me.
makes sense, yeah. So, this was the promissory note that was prepared by the attorney requested by the city council. The areas that are highlighted in yellow are areas that he left blank or that are things that we could adjust if needed. So if you have any questions on any of those, I guess the one that I'll point out, we got included a fee for any attorney's fees related to the preparation of the agreement, item 1A there. Dan put $500 in there. I told Cole we would find out what we were actually charged by the attorney's office, so hopefully it'll be less than that. And then just include the actual fees associated with that, so we don't pay more than necessary, but
I think it's fair.
makes sense to have him pay that since this agreement is primarily for his benefit.
Well, we wouldn't have the cost if it wasn't for this, so I will take that.
But otherwise, maybe I'll just go through the highlighted areas and see if anybody has questions. So the date, I just had an effective date of July 15th, just prior to him leaving. We'll fill in his mailing address, and then he's required to keep that updated going forward, so we can contact him if need be. We'll include the resolution number. Already talked about the fee in section 1A there. Payment due date, section 1C. This has been left blank. I just made the first payment due on August 1st. We can adjust that if the details are better.
I think the reimbursement agreement technically says 30 days past when I'm fully okay with August 1st. I think I'd rather keep it simple. So.
Well, and I think the reimbursement agreement doesn't really require that. So
No, I'm fully fine with this, is what I'm saying.
1E, if there's any default on the agreement, I think is what that is. Then the interest rate would be 10%.
I think plus collection, there's a section down here that's plus collection costs as well.
Yep. Which pulls an outstanding.
Whatever my word's worth to you, pay it.
Late charges, include that in there as well, so $35 or 10% of the overview. So he left us blank, I think maybe you have 10% in there, so $35 based on the amount of the payment.
Can we charge them for that late charge?
I'll have to sit this bill pay, so like, I mean, a check in the mail.
I'm just kidding.
As long as Myron gets it sorted over here, you'll get it.
Late charge, again, I think he had a blank here that said 7 days is usually pretty typical for a payment received more than 7 days after the due date for that late charge. Maturity, date this note is paid in full, the city may specify an optional maturity date. I left that blank, I don't know that we necessarily need to do that. We had anticipated that it would be fully paid off.
Yeah, so the payment structure for the balance based upon 6% interest rate and the minimum $350 payment, like latest based off of those terms would be like 6 years, 3 months. I do anticipate paying it back quicker than that, so I've been talking to staff about creating like some kind of reconciliation spreadsheet. So in a situation where instead of paying $350, I say I pay $1,000 or something like that, that's also going to change your calculation of interest, but just make it so that it's going to be easy to track moving forward. So, yeah.
So I don't know that we need anything. We need an optional maturity date there unless anybody else thinks otherwise.
And if you just wanted to, for the sake of filling it out, you always could just put in the
Or
what that,
we expect it to be paid off, yeah.
I could run an amortization table and get that date, but.
In section 4, it's the late charge and default interest.
Probably should, on 3C, update that for our mailing address, PO Box 188. But that's fine. It doesn't matter.
Yeah, so it's not stated anywhere else in there. Yep, all right.
It's, I know where to send it, but
Yeah.
if it matters to you, we can update it, but
Yeah, we can include the full city address and contact information in there.
you can see to you.
So I think those were the only adjustments from what Dan had provided. Any questions about that? No.
I guess my only question here is to get a point of clarity on the default notice and cure acceleration. Let's see here. There is so the Boyer breaches any covenant representation warranty this note. There's something in here about breach. And I'm assuming in this case, the definition for breach is just defaulting by late payment or any other terms in here. Is that what we're referring to?
I believe so, yeah, just pay within the specified time frame.
I'm fine with it.
It means we can repossess your education.
Take it.
Any other discussion on that? If not, do we have a motion to approve that?
I'll make a motion to approve resolution 2026-50. Resolution to approve promissory note and repayment agreement.
Any other discussion?
Yes, I want to make a comment. I've been thinking about this since the last meeting. I don't think this fulfills the public interest of the city of Riverside to have our money tied up for 6 years. So I don't have anything against coal on this. I just think we're not a bank. We're tying up money that we're not getting a benefit out of. So that's my thought. It's been a thought of mine also. I mean, for the dollar amount there, it seems 6 years is pretty excessive time period. I just wonder if we could knock it down to maximum 4, if that would be possible.
Cool, so your intent was to pay it off early anyway.
Earlier, I guess I'm not sure what, would you potentially, if it was a earlier term, potentially consider a lower than 6% of, say, 4.5 or 5% interest rather than 6?
I would say that, as much as I agree, I think he's paying interest on it. We're making some interest money.
We're not actually making interest money, though, we're making our money back. I think there's interest being paid on it, but it's not like we have a principal balance where we're getting excess funds off of it. You're gonna have a hard time finding a loan for even 6%. And I don't think you would ever find a really a 4.5 or something like this. So I wouldn't recommend that we make those rate any lower than it is. But I don't know, I understand that's the time to think about it, but we also made the decision to take action on this at our last meeting, so And we kind of knew the terms at that point. This is just a promissory note that formalizes it. So I wasn't expecting that we'd have a whole lot of adjustments to this.
Well, I thought about it after we, it's like, wait a minute, you know, we're not getting any benefit, we're tying up 23,000 of city money. So that's where I'm at.
Any other discussion or thoughts on that? All right, so let's see, we've already got a motion in a second here. Are you recommending that we adjust the term then, or are you just against it?
I'm just, yeah.
Ryan, is your motion, do you want to make any adjustments to it, or are you ready to take a vote on it?
No, I'm ready to take a vote on it.
Okay, then we will do that. So we'll take a roll call vote on this resolution. Rogerson.
Aye.
Keeney.
No.
Sexton. Aye. Schneider.
Aye.
Ms. Water.
Aye.
Okay. That's approved.
If I just may say, hey, this is not lesson learned for the next time, how about that?
Yeah, I mean, the situation is what it is. And I don't think Cole had an intent
Right.
to do this and then utilize this for another position. It just, you know,
Yes.
that's part of the reason we had the arrangement set up the way that we did, I guess, and
Maybe next time for 4 years and on the next contract.
something like that. Is anything else on that topic? We got a couple other items here that we can cover.
Next item, you will see our final audit report. Everything came back clean here. This will be for fiscal year 2025, so this would then the period ending June 30th, 2025. Admittedly, this audit did take a long time to get done, way beyond what the normal, I guess, timeline is. But the primary things we're gonna look at are the statement of findings. Give me one moment here. Yeah, I'm scrolling down here. Okay. Okay, so page 28 of the document itself, you'll see at the bottom of the page, there's 28. You guys on that page? Yeah. Okay, so the first one will have the segregation of duties. This is one that we will always have until we have a large enough staff to where we can, every single aspect of our, I guess, processing of everything financials is separate. Realistically, it looks like, I would say 7 to 9 full-time employees or employees that are involved in the process. Dustin, auditor, did note that our procedures for the size of community and team we are is perfect. It's the best we can do, where not only do we have myself, Stephanie, and Carrie involved, city council approve things, but we also have a representative from city council, being Kevin Keeney, to look over our bank recs. So there is some division of those duties to make sure everything is reviewed and is compliant, but at the end of the day, we just simply don't have a large enough team to, I guess, address that. Part two here, we did not have any disbursements that exceeded the amounts budgeted. We did not have any questionable disbursements. We did not have any disbursements of city money for travel expenses of spouses of city officials or employees. Business transactions, so we do have to list vendors who have a relationship to city employees or a direct relationship to city employees or city officials. In this case, Schneblin Inc., while it was operating, being direct in-law of Tom Sexton, that did not surpass the threshold, which is 6,000. Everything's good there. There was no restricted donor activity. Surety bond coverage of city officials is in accordance with what is required by law. There was no transactions that were found that they believe should have been approved by city council, but were not, so we're all good there. Let's see, the only, other finding we have here was, our depository resolution. So we had a $6 million threshold with F&M Bank at the end of June, very end of this year. We had like 6.1 or like 6.3 million in there, which we've already addressed this. We've already upped our threshold. I think it was like 8 or 10 million for F&M now. So we're good there. So there was no follow-up needed, but it's just something that would need to be called out. It's not something that would impact any kind of bond rating or any kind of, I guess, integrity. It's more of a acknowledgement of risk where we want to make sure that the depository thresholds we're setting are, I guess, in line with our risk tolerance. So urban renewal report was properly approved and certified to the Iowa Department of Management on time, so everything's good there. Economic development, we had paid $11,500. That's actually split over 2 fiscal years based off when the payments were made. But anyways, we did have a resolution approving those funds, so that had a matching public purpose. Everything's good there. So I mean, everything on the audit came back clean. Especially when you have a transition of city clerks, it's really good to make sure that everything's came back good. This was, I think, Stephanie's first test. Everything looks good. So we hope many more years of clean audits. So, albeit this one took a little longer to get through, very happy with ending results. So, any questions on the fiscal year 2025 audit? If not, it would be good to have a motion to accept the FY 2025 audit report, so we can have that approved.
I'll make a motion to accept the audit report.
Second. Okay, any additional discussion? Cole, the comment regarding the emergency services, that we said group, is that?
He did not include it, no. He felt that after our investigation of it, that it was sufficient, that it was not a concern. So not a finding on here. So what Alan's referring to is RISA, Riverside Emergency Services Association, is a component unit of the city of Riverside. So it's not something that's under the control of the city, but it exists solely for the purpose of benefiting the city of Riverside, because Riverside Fire Department is a city department. So because of that, their financials are, I guess, susceptible or open to being reviewed for our audit, just because we want to make sure that we're not accepting funds from any questionable sources, where there's any issues with that. So what Alan's referring to, we found a discrepancy between what we were anticipating our ending fund balances being and what it was. There was actually a surplus. We worked backwards. The information that was provided to us by Risa was incorrect. We've since figured that out. So everything's good there. But ultimately, as I said, it's not something, and regardless, that we're in control of. It's something we just have to, it's part of the audit we have to review. So there's no concerns there. But yeah, it's just something you have to, if there was an issue, it's, like I said, not something we're in control of. It's more of an acknowledgement of risk, but we were able to rectify it. And so, yeah.
All right, any other discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor of approving the audit report, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries.
All right. Last thing here, I guess I'll take the hiring announcement. I took some inspiration from the last time we had it posted and kind of updated it a little bit. I've put this on the website to let people know that we have an announcement. They need to get it, I need to get it posted out front there. And we can also get it sent to the paper, but this is more of a, hey, positions coming open, we're having information about qualification requirements, compensation, when we need, like what you need for an application, when those will be due, that sort of thing, which ties into our next piece here. Alan, I'll maybe let you take this over since you have been talking to Marquita and Mark about this, but there's a proposal from Marquita Oliver and Mark Jackson to assist with a hiring search here. So Alan, would you
Basically, they are willing to work with us and they provided a proposal with some itemized costs related to what they can do or what we'd like them to do in the search process. We can lay down a potential schedule and then the fee proposals. It's page, starting on page 8, it looks like.
I actually spoke with Mark Jackson today. We just wanted to know how kind of this meeting was going to go for the review conversation. He was saying that they didn't really see necessary to do all of the one-on-one interviews with city council to get a feel for goals for the community and all of that. If that's different, then that's something we want to let them know. But it seemed like organizationally things are fairly stable right now, and it's not like there's going to be a major shakeup. Unless there is, I think that's something you guys would want to let them know. So.
Yeah, I think in my mind, fortunately or unfortunately, we've been through this process a few times now, at least many of us have, so we kind of understand the steps that need to be taken, and it's which ones do we want assistance with. In my mind, some of the things that they could potentially help with are, number one, getting the word out to candidates and identifying good candidates for the position, and then whether or not we want them to assist with portions of the interview process. So we kind of laid out their fees for each piece of that. Now, if we decide to cut some of these things out, I don't know that they would necessarily be one-to-one. So if they're only doing half of this, they might adjust their fees somewhat. But this gives us an idea of the areas where they can provide assistance, and my goal was to get some feedback from the city council on where we need them and where they don't, what you guys are comfortable with doing on our own and what we need some consultant assistance with.
Just so we consider anything that, choose the consultants not to do, someone would have to do, whether it be city council, Alan. I also, I think Stephanie should apply. I'll just be upfront about that. But I also think the integrity of the process would make sure that if a team member that were to apply, you probably wouldn't want to depend on having to run the process or be a part of the process. Just something to consider is all I'm saying. That's all I'm gonna say. I'll let you guys have the conversation, but
I guess, I think it would be money well spent if we do the whole process, because we've got the water park coming, we've got the wellness center being built. We need, to me, we need some real grant writing skills to, I don't know, I just think it sounds like a lot of money, but I think it's well worth it because, you know, they've got a feel for who's got what experience. And that's where we do need to let them know, you know, what we've got, what we need. So that's my opinion, so.
Yeah, I think that's gonna make the process go as smoothly as possible.
I agree. I agree.
you won't be paying me for a couple months too, so that might help.
That's, you know,
Well, that's a good thought.
I would like to see all the candidates' resume that applied, not just what they picked, because there was a couple candidates in this last round before Cole that I don't think they had any business being in consideration.
Yeah.
So that,
Tom, are you saying the,
they just weren't, they didn't have the background for it
fair enough.
or the knowledge. And it was obvious. So
I was thinking the opposite where there's someone you thought should have. Okay.
Yeah, yeah, and is there a problem with that, you know? I mean,
You know, and I think one comment was maybe he kind of knew there wasn't, but they just wanted to throw him out there for experience in the process.
Yeah. I just knowing Mark and Marquita, I also don't think they want to waste your time or waste their own time. Like they really do care about placing people in positions that are going to succeed, the community is going to succeed. And that.
It's Brent's fault.
Yeah, but as much as I hate this process, I gotta agree with Lois. It just, there's so much going on and we're not gonna have administration to deal with a lot of it for a short period of time, so have them deal with it from start to go.
yeah, I think it's very well spent.
Yeah.
True that.
So do we have to vote on it?
Yeah, if somebody wants to make a motion, then we can formalize it and.
I'll second.
Okay, any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, we'll get that started. All right, anything else, Cole?
That's all I got for you tonight.
Anybody have any closing comments?
I do.
Go for it.
So every day, I turn onto Ella Street, and I know I talked about it last time, but I really want everybody to try to come from that side and turn into Ella. It is the worst turn, and if the person that's driving south is just a little too far to the left, you're gonna hold up traffic on Highway 22, waiting for that person to go, and that way you can turn into Ella.
All right, Edgar, I will agree. I looked at that a couple of days after that meeting, and it does look like people, when they turn off 22 going west, up, and they are cutting the shoulder pretty hard.
Right.
So lots more tight.
So I just really think that road is a pretty busy road. You have farm equipment going down. I really think we should make that a priority. I don't think we want to cost us that much, but I think we need to do something about it. That's my thought of the day.
I'll go real fast. First of all, Tom's mentioned the braking for semis. Is it annexed out there where Casey's is and the Copper Creek and we do have any jurisdiction?
Yeah, that's annexed there.
Okay.
From 218 to like basically get into town here, that section 22 isn't, but from 218, basically all the way throughout the casino is all annexed in, so yes. But
I'm
regardless,
talking about the, where the new campground is. Mike's.
I mean, it's I guess, how would you, I mean,
I'm
it's
just
off.
saying, I'm just saying, long story short, there's been complaints about, there's construction people, living there, and there's been complaints, and they've been angry about the breaking there.
We haven't
Well,
posted here.
I mean,
This
do we
time.
have, do we really have any jurisdiction on the actual interchange?
So Tom, that's where I'm going with this.
I
Is
don't think we probably do.
I think city streets like First Street, Hickory Street,
Okay, that's.
those I think we
just-
have jurisdiction over. The DOT, like where its addresses are I-22. I'm not sure. That's something I could throw a quick email over to the DOT and ask. I don't know, to be honest with you.
And that's fine,
I'm
I'm
sure
just,
you can hear, I can hear it in town. You hear
yeah,
someone
we'll
coming
get there,
down.
yeah, everyone
Yeah.
knows, so that's, and I'm just passing that on. I've had people complain about not getting newsletters, and I do think somewhat, at least last month, we could have put the schedule in for, I think with two people here, we ought to be able to find time, I don't know, I've had a couple people complain. Hall Park, the ruts, someone did fall, I do think it's something that needs to be addressed sooner than later, because, I had noticed it when we went to a ball game and didn't think anything of it, but, I did ask Travis, and he didn't have any reports, but I do know one person that fell, so that's something that needs to be addressed sooner,
And I brought that up to the code too. I don't know if it's, our guys should be on top of that, but is this in the scope of the
It was, I
pickleball court that
It
we
was.
should be taking care of this?
No one's lawn care is responsible for. I did report this to Axiom, so they were supposed to pull those drainage socks and do any kind of fill and seeding on those as needed. Just because you get the socks, they compact, they're supposed to backfill that and throw seed down. And from what I saw and what Brian Logan reported to me, they essentially pulled them, threw seed on it, like basically like golf course, like filler seed. They didn't do any kind of backfill on it.
that's what was worse is the grass had grown high enough that it was hard to see them. And we encouraged people to go up that hill because they had kids bouncy seats and the food trucks and stuff up there, so. Enough of that, and then, the business storefronts that haven't been, that's just things to do.
I would, so we already have a model of community catalyst grant. We have the ability to do another, I think we maybe want to give it a little breathing after doing the CDBG downtown revitalization, but we did learn some good lessons throughout both of these. We've also done our own grants with hotel motel funds. I think, whoever comes next, hammer down, promote those opportunities to those business owners and finish out the downtown, because we've made a heck of a lot of progress
Yeah,
here.
and it's not fair to the ones that were in the grant, and did, The other thing is, I do think it's important to get the cleaning figured out here, because it's been, I don't know how many months since it's been cleaned. And I think that we need to get that figured out sooner than later, so that's all.
Lois, can I ask you a question in regard to the newsletters? I know we've had discussion about sending the billings out via postcard. If we do that, it's gonna make it challenging to continue to send the paper newsletter. So can I just get some feedback on what your preference is as far as that billing? Because we are doing research on that, and I don't wanna waste a huge amount of time working on changing a billing process that is ultimately not gonna be what someone wants.
Can you just put a QR code on the postcard?
I would think.
Well, it kind of sounds like people are wanting a tangible newsletter actually in their bill. I mean, we can write it and post it online, but the feedback I had previously gotten was people don't read it out there. So I guess I just would like an overall clear picture of the direction we should go, because I don't want to waste time doing all this work to get it to a news or a postcard billing, and it'd be a complete waste of time when we can focus those efforts elsewhere.
Well, not only that, but the postcard's probably a lot cheaper than.
They are, and that's kind of one of the reasons.
Substantially cheaper.
Not only is it substantially cheaper, but it will save a lot of time. You're not actually stuffing envelopes. We're kind of looking at a,
Well, you don't have the stamp cost close cheaper, you don't have an envelope.
Yeah.
It's also less paper, it's less printing, so
Well,
instead of,
it kind of goes back to, for instance, when the state makes changes, they're not gonna send you a letter. You gotta look it up. You gotta reach out. So who's responsible? Is it the person responsible to reach out to the government, or is it the governor's responsibility to reach out to the people? Now, it's probably somewhere in the middle.
Well, I just think the other thing is, there's elderly people that maybe, looking for information. I mean, and there's people that don't have computers, so I don't know, I know Wellman still does the, the stuffing, and they always have a newsletter and stuff, so I don't know, I know it's
Is the middle,
changed and
is the
stuff.
middle ground, where, like, for the bulk majority of it be posted on the website, you can use a QR code, get to it, see it, go on Facebook, and we can print off a few copies to have here at City Hall, so if anyone who wants to come by and grab one. I do know that the senior village, we used to print off stacks of them. They'd come by, pick up them and distribute them out there.
Ultimately, they stopped doing that, and all of the excess that we were printing get recycled.
It isn't in much for tonight, I'm just passing, along with people,
Alan?
I was going to pitch in, when I worked in the post office, the towns that mailed out the postcards is an absolute nightmare for the postal service. Those things get mangled in their machines, people don't get them. I was so thankful to live here where we got our water bills and letters, because that made it a whole lot easier and there wasn't near the complaints.
At what cost?
Yeah,
That's the thing. I've run the numbers and
well, that goes up every day.
Saving a substantial
Well, if
amount.
we're talking about pain, the post office is a pain.
Yeah.
So, sorry.
I don't work there anymore. I'm not.
I know.
Well, they must be doing better.
Okay.
Well, I think we can continue to have that conversation. I think if nothing else, it might have been better to just, we didn't give any communication that we were doing away with the newsletter, correct?
No.
I think just pointing people in the direction where they can get that information would be sufficient too, so we can talk about that, but I don't think it has to be one or the other. We can probably find a way to do both, at least get the information out there. Any other closing comments? Does someone like to make a motion to adjourn?
So moved. I'll second those. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
We're adjourned at 8:56.
That was my fault. It is your fault.
Let's keep this up.
No.
Talk about other races.
Can't, go back until the next election cycle.
Did you sit too long coming?
Yeah.
They are.
He's gonna be in
I know
one.
that
It's fine, perfect.
I asked a rate reduction for travel, and he said, can't do it, but.
I'm assuming if we need anything, I'll just wait for afterwards before I try to.
No, that's fine. Yeah.
I didn't receive any information that we talked about, so.
Yeah, well, check this now. I knew I was getting pretty much where I'm on.
Whatever, you get the information.
I'm
Stephanie,
Yeah,
Stephanie.
So she's gonna have to keep you.
No, she's gonna be her, and Jeff's gonna do her best to do.
Both jobs.
No, not both jobs, she's gonna do her best to do her job without me.
You go to back room.
Went to baseball and came back and you're still.
Sorry about it. Thank you.
Good luck with your.
Appreciate it, same to you.
Keep us informed.
Oh, I'm looking forward to stopping by. I mean, my family's in the area, so I think I mentioned, but I'm quite bittersweet about,
Yeah.
missing the fine, like, I getting the wellness center built, seeing all the, downtown stuff getting done, like, but I'm very, very much proud of the work we've done together, so you guys are fine.
Right, just, yeah.
No, friends all good. Say it for me, I understand.
Yeah, okay.
Don't lose it.
Have to try and
I'll see you around. Okay, take care.
You too.
Who was paying for everyone, kind of talk to Cole, but where do we stand